Welcome learners, once again. This is the last video on the experimental techniques, in which we are going to look at how you can test for the presence of water in a substance. How can you tell that a substance contains water? Remember that water is an oxide of hydrogen, which has the formula H2O. Alright, so the presence of water can be tested using two reagents or chemicals, namely anhydrous copper sulfate and the anhydrous cobalt chloride. Anhydrous copper sulfate is the CuSO4, and the anhydrous cobalt chloride is CO. Take note, the O is a small letter, and Cl2. Right, so these two substances would give would reveal the presence of water in a substance. Think about any substance. As long as there is water, you can test for its presence of water in such a substance using these two substances. So let's look at a description of the experiment or the test that you can carry out to show that a substance contains water. Start off with anhydrous copper sulfate. Anhydrous copper sulfate, CuSO4, test for water. So initially, anhydrous copper sulfate is white. Anhydrous copper sulfate is white. So when you add water to a sample of anhydrous copper sulfate, it turns blue. Alright, so the change of color from white to blue indicates that the added liquid is water. Right, so we are saying that copper sulfate, CuSO4, when you add water to it, initially it is white. When you add water to it, H2O, okay, which is colorless, it is going to form what is called the calcium pentahydrate. Calcium pentahydrate. Calcium pentahydrate is CuSO4, and the pentahydrate is just 5 water molecules. So just write 5H2O. Alright, so in order to balance this, just put a 5 here. Okay. So the product is basically blue. So the copper sulfate, which was initially white, the anhydrous copper sulfate, which was initially white, now turns to blue. So this is an indication that the water is available. Let's say, for example, if you take just think about any substance which contains water in it. Let's say you have a mixture of ethanol and water. Remember that ethanol and water will form a homogeneous mixture, a uniform mixture. Suppose you have ethanol. Ethanol is C2H5O5 OH, added to water. So in this substance, in this mixture, there is water there. Okay, so suppose you have copper sulfate in a test tube, a separate test tube, anhydrous copper sulfate, right? Anhydrous copper sulfate. If you add this mixture to anhydrous copper sulfate, which is originally white, it is going to change color to blue. So there's going to be changing of color to blue because of the presence of water. So water turns anhydrous copper sulfate, which is white, to blue color. The blue color is an indication that water is present in that substance. So they may ask you in an exam, explain how you can test a liquid, a given liquid, if it contains water. So you would simply say, add a sample of anhydrous copper sulfate, add water, a few drops of water to a sample of anhydrous copper sulfate. It will change from white to blue. That's an indication that the test liquid contains water. Alternatively, you can use what is called anhydrous cobalt chloride. Cobalt chloride has the chemical formula COCl2. Take note that CO is not carbon monoxide, it is cobalt. See, the O is a small letter O. It's different from carbon oxide or carbon monoxide. Okay, so COCl3 is CO2 is COCl2 is what is called cobalt chloride. It can also be used for testing a substance if it contains water. So the test results for cobalt chloride and that of copper sulfate are different, are not the same. Okay. So initially, before water is added to anhydrous copper chloride, the color is blue. It has blue color. Okay, so when you add water to it, when water is added to the sample of anhydrous cobalt chloride, it is going to turn pink. Okay, so we are saying that to cobalt chloride, you add water. Upon adding water, you're going to form cobalt chloride again with a hydrate attached to it, or water attached to it, a water molecule. So you have COCl2 and then a water molecule attached to it, just H2O. H2O. So this initially is blue. It's blue, it has a blue color. And the hydrate, which is the complex of cobalt chloride and water, is pink. So if they ask you in an exam, explain how anhydrous cobalt chloride can be used to detect the presence of water in a substance, all you have to say is that add water to a sample, or add the test liquid. Remember, it may not always be obvious that it's water. It is a test liquid. The liquid you would want to check if it's water. So you add the test liquid, a few drops of it, to cobalt chloride. If it turns pink, or it changes color from being blue to pink, then that means that the test liquid is water or contains water. That's very important to note. Alright, so these are the two tests that you can carry out to show that a given sample liquid contains water or is water. My name is Mr. Pochilola once again, wishing you all the best. So this marks the end of the topic experimental techniques. I'm sure you've been following the videos from the first video to this one. If not, please check that there's a playlist of all the components of the topic. Watch all of them so that you can connect the concepts very well. Once again, consider to subscribe to the channel so that every time I upload a new video, you are the first one to know. For the time being, wishing you the best in your studies of chemistry. See you in the next topic. Bye-bye.